Hey everybody, thanks for joining us. Today we're fishing some steelhead holy water in Washington's Olympic Peninsula near the town of Forks. We're with local guide Bill Meyer, who's fishing with David Hawken of Hawken Fishing. Now the river conditions are low and clear, perfect for the bobber and jig system. Now stay tuned because you're about to learn some great details that are going to help you catch more fish with the bobber and jig setup. I'm Justin Wolff, and this is Angler West Television. It's a rare sunny winter day in the rainforest of the Olympic Peninsula, and we're steelhead fishing with David Hawken of Hawken Fishing that manufactures the well-known Arrow floats, Arrow jigs, and Bomac jigs. David is fishing with guide Bill Meyer of Angler's Guide Service. We're after steelhead with a bobber and jig system, which can be amazingly effective.
This is just
as long as you have the right setup for a natural presentation.
Fly line floating. You can buy it at any fly shop or anything. It's muslin.
Yep.
It's not a big deal. Couple of dollars for it, and basically it's great to treat your bumper section with.
I was going to say
because
section.
that's dragging on the water there, and it's the main thing it's doing is it's making the hook face upstream on your jig.
Correct.
Which is what you do not want. You want a little bit of resistance, and you want the hook to be hitting them first with the marabou, the hackle. So that should make a big difference on how that floats on the water. Should be able to just pick it up and mend it a lot easier.
I was going to say, because that's about 2 seconds from coming off of there and going straight to a...
Yeah. See all there? So let's see what that mend looks like now. Perfect. It's popping right off there. I run the CFX on
that's the P-line?
all the P-line on all my bumpers and leader material.
How do you like it?
And it's the toughest stuff in the world. It's incredible. And I run that muslin on it, on that bumper section, and it's just awesome because, you know, fluorocarbon is not going to float for you. So
yeah, I'll be switching over here momentarily.
but yeah, that's way better. This stretch right here is really good when the water is higher. The fish will lay up in here a little bit, holding over, and typically these last couple of spots, you're just going to pick up a fish that's traveling through. You know, it's just enough to slow him down, but we'll take one of those for sure.
I'll take him every time.
I'm actually going to drop the anchor and have you make a couple of passes through here.
I might jump over to the
Nightmare?
yeah. I actually wanted to do that.
Just 3/4 of the way over there. You don't have to go very far. There you go. You know, some of the spots in this river are different at different heights, and that's true with all rivers. This particular spot here has a trench that's running down through here that the water surface doesn't necessarily show it, but there we go. There's our fish. That fish lays right in that trench, and as those fish are traveling upriver, they'll follow that trench. So you drag too tight, Dave?
What's those giant rapids down there? I don't want to
So anyway, you know, a trench or any kind of structure with rocks in it where there's a major gradient change is going to be a spot that a fish is going to follow up around this corner. It's naturally going to find the deepest part of this flat here, which happens to be right off to our left. So
looks like a little native, Bill.
it's a great little 6-7 pound fish. Let's see what we got here.
Now, everything looks bigger on camera, so that's got to be like 12.
And so actually this is, if I had my polarized glasses on, I could tell you sooner, but this is not a native, actually. This is a hatchery fish. And even though there's an adipose fin on it, This is a one salt fish out of a broodstock program that we have in the upper watershed here that's unfortunately been discontinued. But this is really cool. This is the 12th one that I've caught this year, and we haven't even had a release for this season off of these fish. So
So is it?
so this is a hatchery fish, for sure.
So if they've discontinued that program, are you guys letting these fish go, or are you?
Yeah, we're.
I was gonna say, because
It's
just
up to the individual to harvest
let's let it go,
or to keep it. And there's a lot of controversy over broodstock programs and what's going on with our fisheries. And so this is a perfect spot to hook, and you just got them right in the beak. You don't have to touch the fish at all. You just go ahead and take the hook out. And
there you go.
Good job.
Another nightmare fish. Thank you, sir.
Nightmare fish.
There's one fishing rod company that produces more species-specific rods than any other in the world, with the highest quality standards for over 60 years, allowing you to fish with confidence.
Hi, Steve Rouse for Benny Brown's Corning Chrysler Jeep Dodge. Let's talk Ram, stand-up capability that really stands out. From the ultra-spacious new crew cabs to the legendary Cummins turbo diesels, these trucks will master any job. Here at Corning Dodge, we have a great selection of Ram trucks with the lowest price.
Welcome back to the Olympic Peninsula. I'm Justin Wolff. We're bobber and jig fishing for steelhead, and our first fish of the day has come on a jig, commonly known as the Nightmare.
Probably one of the most popular patterns we make is a Nightmare. As you can see, that was 2 passes in less than, 15 seconds coming in the hole here. And Nightmare jig does it again.
This is a basic low water float presentation. What we have here is a weighted float. We have our monofilament running through it with a nail knot or bobber stop or whatever you want to call it on each side. Okay, so it basically can become a fixed float. So you're fixing the distance between the jig and the float, which is crucial when the water's clear, because you don't want to spook the fish with a big piece of weight or your terminal tackle getting in the way of you catching a fish. So this is a stealthy approach for low water. And basically all you have is an 1/8 ounce jig head, 1/8 ounce weighted float, and your main line.
No swivels, no nothing.
No swivels, no nothing. And that's as simple as it gets.
The reason we like to use jigs, I mean, the float goes down, you know you got a fish. I mean, it is as quick and simple a way of learning to steelhead fish as anything I can think of. I mean, there's guys that bottom bounce for years, and a novice can pick these floats up in jigs and within a couple hours be on par with a real seasoned steelhead veteran. So I said, I have 4 kids that fish, and they're all set up on jigs, and I said they're all filling punch cards. Just, they love to fish, and it's all bobber and jigs.
One thing that's great about float fishing for beginning steelhead fishermen is that a lot of times, you know, bait is not available as far as salmon roe and stuff like that to steelhead fishermen, and they may or may not have a cure that's going to work in a particular system. So the one thing that's really nice about the jigs is, you know, you can scent them to find out if there's a particular scent that's working, but also they're not scented. And you're not worried about drift fishing in low clear water like this, where you might only be using a piece of split shot, you know, to drift eggs or something through that hole, which would take a very skilled application in a spot like this for someone to be able to pick up a fish. Where this is actually suspended in the water column, and it's floating right through the trench if you have your depth set right. And the whole time, it's just a perfect, natural, right at the same speed of the river presentation.
Yeah,
that's one of the greatest things about float fishing that that drift fishermen are trying to do, is they're trying to get that to float through there as quickly and
Naturally.
as naturally as possible, for sure.
You see we mend the line upstream? We're trying to move the float as little as possible. The jig's 10 inches off the bottom. If you're dragging bottom or you're seeing your bobber bouncing everywhere, you're not doing it right. Hey Bill, do you got that 8-pound?
Yep, CFX for sure.
Would it be too much to ask to have you rig up that other rod with that? Just snip that crap off and start over?
Yeah, that's no problem. So one of the knots used to attach your bumper monofilament to your floating line, or your main line, is you double up the line here, and then you take your leader, you lay it against it. And what you do is 2 uni knots. So you're making a loop and wrapping around that loop. It's real important when you pull this loop that it goes in evenly, otherwise it creates a pinching point. So you want to just get that set, then you want to come over to your leader end and you want to wrap this through the same way. Usually about 5 times. I probably should count more often, but when you're pulling it, you want to pull the tag end and the main line end and just cinch it right next to each other. And then you got your tag end on this side. You want to pull right here, and that will tighten up a lot better. Then the tricky part here is now you got a bunch of tag ends, and I'm always real proud of myself when I cut off the knot that I just tied on. So you want to be careful here. You can go really tight here because this is going to be sliding through your guides and off your reel. So you want to make sure you get all this good and tight there. There we go. Got your knot to join in that.
Get the snip by any chance?
Yep.
Welcome back to the Olympic Peninsula, where moss-covered trees that rarely see the sun are glowing as bright as the fish in the river.
That's a bright fish.
That spot is now 10 for 10.
Is it really?
Yeah. I don't want to get you all excited. Have it not happen.
Oh, there it goes. That's the end of that.
Landing these fish is one thing,
Oh well.
but hooking up is a matter of good presentation.
For this low water presentation here, you typically want to tie this bumper because the float is fixed to the line. So you're going to slide it. It won't be able to slide past the knot that you made here. So you want to try and put on as much leader as the spot that you're going to fish that will be the deepest. So we're not going to fish too much deeper than about 8 feet. So that's where we're going to go ahead and, you see those snips, and tie our leader off here. So this is kind of an important knot here. Is your uni knot on a jig head is real important, rather than the clinch knot. Again, it's the same knot. You just pass through the eye twice. Okay, so it's wrapped around it. Then you make a loop and come through the loop as you're tying that. You're just going to wrap this around 4 or 5 times, right? And you want to use your finger to slide your knot down against your eye on the hook there. And then what that allows to do, once you have that tightened up, it allows that jig to float horizontally to the ground, which is going to impart more action on the marabou hackle here. when it's in the water. This is an 1/8 ounce arrow float, and when I put this float on the line, you're just putting your tubing on here first. It's just a little easier to handle. And then what you do is you get your tubing set up, and of course you run the tubing through the leader material, and you're just sliding it on here. You want to leave the tubing just off the bottom of that, just a little bit. It has a little less tendency to foul on you. And then you take the top here, and this goes right around the top, just like that. And that's what's securing the float to the line. And then because it's just laden there against there, to adjust it, you're just sliding it. And you can slide it to whatever depth you want. Just like that. There's your presentation. You can go all the way down to, fishing a couple of feet, to all the way to about 6 feet right there. So one of the most crucial parts of float fishing is mending your line and keeping a natural presentation while you're mending. And what a lot of guys that start off float fishing, they don't understand mending. And what mending does is it keeps your jig lined right with the head facing up current. And not only that, it alleviates the pressure off, the surface pressure off the top of the float. When you don't mend, if this is your hook and this is your float, right? It'll look just like this. If you don't mend, what your float does to your jig is it pulls it. Okay, so no matter what depth you have it set at, if you don't mend, your float's driving that surface current downriver. And when it does that, it's going to lift your jig up. So essentially you're going to be fishing half as deep at a faster presentation over the fish. By mending, it allows that line to go straight down. Your float will be straight up in the air. And that's when you're getting your vertical presentation down to the fish. And when the float goes down, you're going to get just a straight hook set, because there's not a bunch of slack line laying on the water. And so to give you an example of maybe something that's, let me fix this bobber stop here, of something that's mended properly and not, you got a couple of different things that go on here. So here's a proper presentation, just a little tiny bit of resistance, right? And when it looks like, when the guy's not mending his line right, is usually it's somebody who's trying to cast upstream with a float. It's really tough to fish a float up. For most purposes, you want to fish kind of down and across from you with a float. As you can see, the line here is on the water. And I see this a lot. You see that float, how it's driving downstream? That jig is essentially just a couple of feet under the surface. So what you want to do is when you make a cast, you kind of want to cast straight across the current from where you are, or ideally a little bit downriver. Then what you can do is you can make a big mend up in the air, right? All the way to your float, that's important, and then lay that line straight down. Just pick it up all the way to the float and lay the line straight down. That's the presentation you want right there. Especially float and jig fishing is mostly effective when the water is low and clear. So you want to have a down and across presentation to your fish so that they don't see you, your boat, your gear, or any of that. So the idea is that you're being stealthy. I was sorry to lowhole you.
No, that's perfect. I get to play guide. Trade spots.
I kind of baited you on that one, Dave. Oh, this is a nice fish. Well, they're all nice, but.
Swivels are designed to eliminate line twists or are used to tie one line to another, but we forget that fish may notice a swivel, especially if it shines. Not InvisiSwivel. Made of fluorocarbon, InvisiSwivel virtually disappears underwater, so it won't spook fish. InvisiSwivel is super strong, can't rust, and is neutrally buoyant, so it won't cause drag. You'll catch more fish in fresh or salt water. InvisiSwivel, the clear choice.
Invisible. We're on the Olympic Peninsula, where water conditions are perfect for bobber and jigs.
Yeah, so I just cast it out into this run. It's about 5 feet deep. I set my depth at 4.5 feet or so.
During a tutorial, no less.
Cast it out there, and I made 2 mends. And that was just enough for this jig to drop right into the right spot for this fish, for him to react to it.
I think we should just let him go.
Yep.
You see that? That's that new low clear water pattern we just came out with.
Number 81.
81, that peach and white. So, we got to keep them in the water. It's a beautiful native. Hook right in the beak, just like they always, or like they should be. I mean, that's just ideal. I'm going to slide up here and see if I can not get myself hooked on top of everything else here. So try to take care of this fish the best we can. Get him upriver here, get him some oxygen. Okay, he'll tell me when he's ready.
So, you know, a lot of the fish out on the Olympic Peninsula, they have just awesome genetics for steelhead. The fish that we just got right there is probably our average, maybe a little bit smaller size steelhead. Hopefully we can encounter some of the bigger ones, but you know, typically 10, 12 pounds is kind of our average steelhead, and we don't get too excited unless stuff starts getting 14, 15 pounds.
Hey, I hope you've learned some things today that will help you, but we're not quite done. One thing to consider in any type of fishing is scent. Now, sometimes no scent is the way to go, and sometimes a little scent will really make a big difference. Now, when you're fishing marabou jigs, what you don't want to do is mat down the feathers. So that's why ProCure's water-soluble fish oils are perfect. They won't affect the way the jig looks, just how it smells and tastes to the fish, which can mean more hookups.
I'm going to pitch one right at him.
The brown one just straight off right there. I was going to say there's nothing to snag on.
No, I was going to say, we just went through this. All right. So now we got 8 pound on. I was gonna say, about the time we needed to do all that, that's a good fish.
I think the beads made the difference on that one, Dave.
That, I said we've been through there, what, 30 passes with everything else we know, and then we switched over to that SMJ2.
First pass.
First pass. That's a Nicomato special.
Definitely a buck. That coloration is just your typical coloration on a buck that you'd see with that big green olive back to it. Just a nice fish for sure. He's being pretty docile. I think I can just get a hook on him and kick him. Oh yeah, look at that fish.
That's a beauty. Right in the nose too.
Okay, I got him.
Okay. Beautiful. What a beauty.
Hey, thanks for watching today's episode of Angler West TV. You know, it's only with the sponsor support that this show is made possible, so please thank them when you can. Now get out there and do some great fishing.